Dennis and I met Luke because somebody in their organization answered a plea that I had when we recently traveled out of the country for several weeks of who was going to be our backup fish person. So, and I can't even believe that we weren't members of their club already, but we joined and attended our first meeting the other day. Yeah. It was a lot of fun, So we look forward to spending more time with your club and getting to know everybody. So when Luke and I talked, when he came over to see our fish, and he was like, oh, you have begonias. We have some, yes. We have a lot of begonias. So it seemed like a good pairing, and it seemed like it would be something that he could bring to our club if some people were interested in getting into aquatic plants and more of the begonias. You don't have to have fish, as Luke will tell you, but we do think it's a cool thing. So, Luke Wang is the current president and speaker coordinator for the Sacramento Begonia Society and the owner of Vast Aquascaping, a steadily growing aquascaping and maintenance business. If you have social media, I highly recommend following him. He posts some amazing tanks that he has done. In his upcoming presentation, he will teach us the essentials of plant identification, something that has remained a passion in his life, even as keeping fish slowly transformed from hobby to paycheck. His hobby remains the collecting and growing of aquatic plants, which has slowly begun to encompass terrestrial plants as well, particularly the many tiny orchids. He has recently made a few custom setups in order to merge the plants and fish, and continues to find ways to make fish keeping interesting for himself. So, Luke.
Thanks so much for having me, everyone. As she mentioned a second ago, I am the president of the Sacramento Aquarium Society. We meet the first Saturday of every month, so I hope to see some of you guys there sometime. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Today, we are going to be talking more about aquatic plants as they relate to you guys and begonia and other tropical plant keeping. But if you're interested in generic ID of the common aquarium plants found in the hobby, there's a QR code. If that's not for you, I did bring a handout that has a flowchart on it, so if you want it, you can come get it later. A little bit about me. I have a Bachelor in Fine Arts in Jewelry and Metal Arts. It's not very scientific, it's not very biologic or botanical, but at some point I started keeping fish, and that transformed into a job at a fish store, which then became working on people's aquariums, and eventually cost of living was a little bit high in the Bay Area, so we moved back here. And in 2021, I was involved with the Aquarium Society, and some of you know how it goes. You get pulled in and suddenly you can't ever leave again and you're in charge somehow. So this was my exit from college. We all had to do a show rather than a thesis. And this guy is using endemic and native plant and fish populations to illustrate some aspect of U.S. foreign policy. I'm going to try to stay objective. We're not going to get too political. But this was my effort to remind everyone that things have happened in history. It's important to remember them so that our decisions are informed for the future. A little bit scarier in today's day and age than it was in 2019 when I did it, but still talking about the same guy who was trying to build the same wall, so such is life. A little bit more detailed shots on these tanks, so you can see this is Japan, This is a bronze mushroom cloud. This is Vietnam here. This is the Congo. This is a field, like a tilled field. These plants here are native to India, same as rubber and the rubber palms. This is Colombia with an abandoned cocaine factory. Here's a little bit more detail, a shot on the Vietnam tank. I cast some Green Army dudes, the ones we all played with as kids, and then made some fire bombs out of some rods, arranged them to be fighting each other around some native Vietnamese fish and plants. Some of the other tanks. And this is one of my client projects. So today I mostly set up aquariums for people, and then I go to their houses and trim their plants and change their water. It's a pretty decent time. Here are some more examples. We do paludariums as well. There may be some more familiar plants to you guys here. This is Begonia prismaticarpa. It lives right there. It gets no care. Every quarter or so when I go to see this tank, I hack about 1.5 pounds, maybe 2 pounds of it back and take it with me and leave it at this amount, and it comes back. Some more client work. This is not me, unfortunately. This is an aquarium that I really loved in Japan when I went to see. And here you can start to see where a lot of the crossover happens. A lot of our terrestrial plants, and every single begonia that I've ever tried, does really well with their feet wet in an aquarium. This is the prior state of one of my main menagerie tanks at home. Some of these plants. Just some eye candy for everyone. Quick show of hands. How many of us have at least one aquarium at home? You guys put your hands down, I know. Okay, so I also really love my fish, and most fish do really well in the same conditions that plants like. If you're interested, I'm happy to chat about it. You can see some of the crazy colors that come out in aquatic plants. Here, this is a nymphea, water lilies. They obviously grow well in the water. Some more eye candy. This is one of the first fish that I ever bred. Lovely purple faces. This is a paludarium that I've got at home. And there are a lot of species of a lot of things. In the back right corner, there's a waterfall. And water is always moving. That water goes to the entire setup, and everything remains eternally wet. Nothing has had an issue. And that's been my experience for any terrestrial plants that you might find. Some orchids. This is a Dicrinopygium species Gunayala, lovely black leaves. They do a really interesting thing where their flowers explode and their little plantlets, they are true seeds, not quite like orchids. They contain genetic material and some starch, but they're super, super tiny. And you can see some of the little seedlings here to the right. These guys here are about 6 months old in this photo. And this is about 2 millimeters length on these leaves. This is one of the aquariums that I built for myself. This is a great way. This is a great way to keep terrestrial plants. This tank overflows over the several layers and keeps everything wet, and again has moving water everywhere. Some of the things that are growing in there. Here's another aquarium. It's got a bunch of Hoyas. This is a Philodendron mayoi, Hoya species crystal. This is just an example of something you can do in a couple hours when you have a stockpile of red plants. So this is a photo of my master bedroom. I have a different room. My fish keep the master bedroom. It was the biggest bedroom. It also has a bathroom in it, which is very helpful for sanitizing things. It goes to the backyard, so all of my water changes get plumbed right to the orange tree. My oranges are delicious. These guys here are some aquariums that I farm plants in. You can see the pots. These are aquarium plants. And this amount of growth, if I hack it down to the pot level, this will all come back in about a week to 2 weeks. So aquarium plants are able to grow quite a bit faster than terrestrial plants if you give them the proper conditions, since they don't need to make a cuticle. They don't dry out since they're always submerged in water, so they have one less layer of leaf to make, and they don't need to produce that waxy layer, which is thick and energy consuming. If you don't take care of it, things can start looking like that. This is that same aquarium. I wasn't able to do things in it for about 3 weeks because I had some baby fish born and I was afraid of sucking them up. Algae can take hold very quickly, but you can get rid of it also very quickly. However long it takes for it to build up, expect it to take about 1.5 that time to get rid of. And algae sucks, but how many of us have dealt with something like aphids, scale, or thrips, pests? You won't get those in an aquarium. I guarantee it. These are some of the things that grow in that same aquarium. So a lot of those aquatics up top don't actually want to be fully aquatic all the time. Most aquarium plants are growing in the riparian zone, so they're only fully submerged when it's the wet season. And in the dry season, some go dormant, some change their leaf structure and start making a cuticle in order to survive. And that tends to be the time that they flower as well. Down below, these lower 6 photos are all various things. You may recognize this suicidal Monstera albo. It has killed itself, but just because of whiteness, not because of the water. This is Apicia cupreata. So I've tried a lot of Apicias, but no other Gesneriads. But the Apicias are also very happy. This is a Rex type begonia. It was living in that tank for maybe 3 years before I moved it out to the greenhouse. Geogenanthus papigii, Philodendron camposportoanum, and this is Ludwigia setioides. It's a lovely aquarium, not quite aquarium plant. It wants to be rooted in the bottom of the river, but it does not like surface agitation. It does like full sun and warm water. And if the leaves get water on them, they will die. So some of those weirder species of begonia can be a little more difficult to take care of. The ones that require high humidity, the cloud forest ones, Ferox, for example, grows really slow and you can rot it pretty easily. Ludwigia setioides is that in the aquarium. This is the greenhouse. The whole thing is on a drip system, and everything flows into each other and then overflows out to the lawn. All of those reservoirs have water in them. All of these plants, if there are any that you keep at home or that you recognize, they're growing with water just all the time. Every day, each of those little trays gets 2 5-minute drips, and the big tubs down below overflow into each other. I highly recommend having a lot of water in your greenhouse. I don't have a wet wall in this whole setup. Last week, when it was 102 outside, the max temperature that I got in here was 104. So the water does a lot to hold the temperature down. Just some more shots of the racks. You can see the drip lines a little bit more easily. It does also have a misting line that comes on 4 times a day for 3 minutes. So the humidity stays up more than ambient, which is definitely necessary. You can see some of the things that I stole from Kristen's house when I was taking care of her aquariums. Down below, they are sitting in just water. They've rooted out completely fine. I did bring some examples here. You guys are welcome to come up and check them out later of all the various things. I just picked a couple things that were in the greenhouse. Like I've said, nothing I've experienced has ever given me a problem. Every single begonia I've tried has done well, be it cane type or rhizomatous. Really never had an issue, so I highly recommend you try it out. And then this guy here is the most recent aquascape that I did. It has nothing to do with the talk today. I just really liked how it came out, so I wanted to show it off to everyone. This is one aquarium. I glued a glass wall here, and it cascades water over. There are some aquarium plants here, and then if you can tell here, this is fully submerged in water. There's a window there to the spring in the back where all the aquarium plants are. And this is honestly a great place to put some begonias and just let them do their thing. But also in that vein, this aquarium was set up for some specific fish. They're called rhinogobius. They're found in mountain streams and waterfalls in Borneo, China, a lot of Southeast Asian countries. And they're actually able to climb that waterfall. So you can have some really interesting fish. You can keep the plants that you like. There's no reason not to try it. So here, I'm assuming everyone in here has a relatively good idea of how to grow plants well, more than my own club most likely would. Yeah? We all pay attention to certain things when we mix our potting mixes at home, especially when we keep more tropical plants. But when we keep terrestrial plants, you have all the oxygen and CO2 in the atmosphere, which helps it a lot. Aquariums, they're much simpler in watering because there is no way you can over or underwater it. And, well, how many of us have killed some propagation that we were trying to root in a vase at some point? Do we know why that is? So the difference between a vase and an aquarium is when you have an aquarium that was previously set up as an aquarium that you want to keep fish alive in, most fish keepers pay a lot of attention to the amount of oxygenation and flow that their water has. And what really kills all of our plants when we put them in a jar of water is that that water goes stagnant, and maybe some algae grows and it can suck away any nutrients that might be in there from the plant, and then it'll also choke out the plant, and there's no oxygen for any rooting to happen, and slowly the plant just rots. But when you have a lot of oxygenation and the water's moving around in the aquarium, nothing rots. You also don't really need to pay attention to your medium. When you have a potted plant, you want your medium to retain some moisture, but you don't want it to get waterlogged because then you're going to suffocate the plant. Well, all of my begonias at home are just in gravel. I go to Home Depot, I get a $5 bag of Vigoro pea pebbles, and that's perfectly fine. It's so much more cost effective than getting soil. So I'm going to roll through all the commonly found aquarium plants by genus. I'm not really going to talk about them. Feel free to stop me if you're particularly interested in any one of them. And this part is really more where the flowchart would come into play. So these are the stem plants. They grow the most similar to most of the begonias that we'd keep. Does anyone have any questions about any of the vocab words? All good? These are some nice pictures of some stems. Cross sections. All right, so there's Alternanthera, Amania, Bacopa, Flixa, Cabamba, Ceratophyllum, Heteranthera, Hydrocotyle, Hygrophila, Limnophila, Lobelia, Ludwigia, Mayaca, Myriophyllum, Nagus, Pogostemon, Potamogeton, Rotala, and Simolis. This is a tricky one. It doesn't really look like a stem, but sometimes it'll decide it wants to propagate itself, and then it'll throw a bunch of stems, and you'll really see what I'm talking about. I guess I don't have an example of that today. These are some of the less commonly found ones, but that still exist in the hobby. They're Cardamine, Cuphea, Gradiola, Houtonia, Merdania, Persicaria, Proserpinaca, Syngonanthus, and Tonina. These are the ones that form a carpet. They're, a lot of aquarium people don't want to see their dirt on the bottom of the aquarium. They'd rather see plants. So we've got Glossostigma, Marsilea, Micranthemum, and Staragine. These are the common ones. There are a few more. These are the epiphytes. These do also technically include the lithophytes and the rheophytes and all of those things. Not all of the species that you would find in the aquarium are actually growing on another plant, but these are the ones that do not require a substrate for their roots to bind into, like a granular substrate, I mean. Anubias, Bulbitis, Bucephalandra, and Leptochilus. Leptochilus was formerly Microsorum. Microsorum does have quite a few terrestrial species as well. This was reclassified at some point in 2019, I believe. I may be mistaken there. I'm sure some of us are familiar with names changing unexpectedly, and then suddenly you know the wrong thing, and all the other people are asking for something that you don't know what it is, but you do have it and you are growing it. Happens all the time in aquaria too. All the taxonomists need to keep their jobs. So for the epiphytes, we've got Homolamina, Kaiwea, Laganandra. These three are much less common. They are quite a bit more expensive. They are really lovely, but they also tend to grow a decent bit slower than the previous examples that I just showed. These are the rosettes. And this does include some ferns. Ceratopterus, for example, is a fern. So these are the ones that don't produce an obvious stem, and they are just growing kind of in a ring. Sometimes they'll make a leg that goes somewhere else. That's Ceratopterus, Crinum, Cryptocorini, Echinodorus, Eriocolin, Nymphea, Nymphoides, Eleocharis, Holanthium, Liliopsis, Sagittaria, and Vallisneria. Nifar, Cypress, Juncus, Ranunculus, and Xyrus. The last one here is quite the finicky plant as well, but it's super fun. It's extremely disticus. If you turned it 90 degrees, it would look like a line. Very interesting. They like it, honestly, a little bit brighter than the sun that I get in my backyard. I do get full sun in my backyard, and they like it a little bit brighter. Floating plants are the last group. Did anyone like oxalis the first time that they saw it? And how many of you still like oxalis? You're wrong. That's the duckweed mostly, but a lot of the other plants are the same thing. If you like the look of them, they're okay, but the thing to remember with them is to clear them out very often. They are stealing the nutrients of your other plants, other aquarium plants at least, and they have such a simple growth structure that they're able to replicate quite a bit faster than anything else, as well as having access to more atmospheric CO2 than any of the other aquarium plants would, that they will choke out the aquarium plants and they will cover all the light and kill things that way. Also, some of them are regulated as noxious weeds that choke our waterways here, so not necessarily a great idea to have them, but a lot of people still have them. Here's the flow chart. I'll leave it up for a second, but it's a little bit much. So, like I said, if you're interested, there are more paper copies, or I'll flip back to the QR code for a few minutes later, and you can look it up on your phone. Thank you all so much. If you have any questions, I'm happy to chat. I'm here. Kristen's got my number. If you guys have some really pressing issues, feel free to reach out, phone or text, anything like that. Come up and check out all of the examples I've got here of the various things. I'm sure some of us grow things that are not begonias, and we've thought about trying an aquarium. A lot of people know that pothos grows well in an aquarium, and people ask all the time if there are other things that they can put in one that will grow well. Yes, all the things. Also, these are a great way to grow some plants in the aquarium. A friend of mine makes them. I'm sure most of us are familiar with net pots. These are basically just 3D printed clips that go on the side of an aquarium, and they will hold a net pot and keep your plant with just its roots in the water, and its leaves are going to be able to come out of the water. Honestly, I really think that begonias are a great choice to grow in the aquarium, being that all of their roots have always done well for me, and they're not very light demanding. So a lot of our aquariums have a light sitting right on top, and they're lighting the things in the aquarium. But you try to grow some plants outside of it, and they don't have enough light because everyone tells you to put an aquarium away from the window where it won't cause algae and this and that. So the plants that want to be on the forest floor in the understory are going to be the thing that you're going to have the most success with on top of the aquarium with no light. You could, of course, throw an extra grow light up on top of the aquarium to grow your terrestrials too. But I have 3 different sizes of pots if you're interested, pots and clips. I have 1, 2, and 3 inch. I only have a couple of each, and then I have some 2-inch ones with a moss pole. These are great for rhizomatous type anything. Stuff it with moss, keep it wet. You guys know how it works. These are, if you keep your aquarium water level at about right here on the clip, it does have a hole in the bottom. It will suck up water from your aquarium and keep itself wet. If you pack the sphagnum densely enough. Any questions?
How are they with the aquarium? Is that
Say that again?
How are they with the aquariums?
This is Anthurium species Doriaki. Does well.
You called one of your tanks, you didn't call it a terrarium, you didn't call it an aquarium, you called it something else.
Paludarium.
And what is the definition of that?
Some portion of land and some portion of aquarium. So there is some amount of it where it is a displayable water space, and some portion of it that is a displayable land space. It's really in the gray area. It encompasses quite a bit of distance into terrarium, and it also encompasses quite a distance into aquarium. Yeah?
On some of your pictures, there was a picture of staghorn.
The platyceriums?
Are the roots submerged in water or not?
Not those, no.
Not those.
It was probably in the greenhouse, but there was
I think in your bedroom, maybe.
So here they were. These have since moved out to the greenhouse, not fully submerged. So after they were fully submerged at one point, and then the ferns grew upward roots to come out of the water. Full story on these platyceriums. In May of last year, I was in Japan, and I brought them back. When I went through phytosanitary on the other end, they made me cut the roots off of everything that I brought. So we were not starting from the best of places. I had them in wet sphagnum for about a month after I got back, and then when they had root nubs, I took those and I just plopped it horizontally, basically sitting here. And then in another 3 months, I took it out and I mounted it on a piece, and then it sat there for about 6 months, and then it moved out to the greenhouse.
So the growing roots are not so much.
When I was originally regrowing the roots, they were. Currently, at its with its actual form now, where it's growing well, they're not.
Another plant is a Kuphia. Is that Kuphia part of the same family of the Kuphias that we grow in gardens?
It is.
It is the same. Thank you.
So right, it's not super visible, but right here is that same Kuphia. A lot of these aquarium plants, if you put them in less light, then to be fully fair, because I'm a gardener first in those aquariums, my lights make just shy of 3,000 micromoles. In the mid-afternoon sun in my backyard, I get about 2,400 micromoles. So it's significantly brighter than the sun in my plant aquariums. Yeah.
Any tips for those of us that attempt to propagate begonia stems in water? How do you keep it fresh? Is there anything you can add that cuts down the algae growth?
So with begonias specifically, I would say keep it somewhere relatively dark. I mean, give it enough light for the begonias to do it, but you know that they won't use up too much energy when they're not growing, when they're not putting out new growth, when they're just trying to put some roots out. The easiest thing for any one of you to do would just to be get an air pump. Do we know a little bit of something about hydroponics? Okay, well, that's okay. If you just put something in a container and you have an air pump, if you just Google aquarium air pumps, they'll pop up, or you can go to the fish store and ask them for an air pump. They'll definitely know what you're talking about. As long as you keep that water oxygenated, I've never lost a propagation. A lot of, like Nico, for example, he swears by putting a snail in every single propagation jar. An aquatic snail, yes. So that snail will help to cut down on any beginning spores of algae that might be forming. And it'll poop, which produces some amount of ammonia to feed the plant. But it's a very light bioload, so you're not going to burn it, especially when it doesn't have any roots. So that's probably the direction I'd go. And a bigger container is a lot easier on the plant. It's a lot more difficult on your body, moving it around and finding the right place for it. But a bigger container is significantly easier to keep oxygenated, temperature controlled, have some flow in it, that kind of thing.
So if you don't have the pump, you don't have a snail, you just do it in your kitchen, would you empty that propagation water and clean it out and water it, or how would you keep the dust clean?
This is a bare propagation that we're talking about. No, you're not like putting it in any medium or anything, right? Just a water jar. Dump it out every day. Doesn't hurt. Oh yeah, you don't need to scrub it. You can just dump the water out.
I've heard that sometimes there's actually really fungal that comes out of the plant that you brew, and it's a good idea to leave some of that in there. So don't flush out the whole thing, just take it out.
I would play with it and see where it goes. But to be honest, those air pumps, if you get one, and you're not using it regularly on an aquarium, that should last you no less than 8 years or so when you're doing a prop. And if you're having that, then you can treat it almost as if it's a potted plant, and you don't really need to change the water ever. So long term, that is quite a bit easier. And that does have success in just a vase too. You don't need a huge container.
What's the size of the container you have to have to use the gallon size jar?
You can put it in a cup. Whatever size is most convenient for you to use. Typically, the air stones that you would get that may or may not come with the air pump itself are going to be about 1 inch long and 1/2 inch diameter cylinders with a little nipple that comes out. It's a 1/4 inch, 3/16 inch outer diameter that fits on 1/4 inch tubing. That comes out about another 1/2 inch or so, so total length of the thing would be 1.5 inches. It's pretty easy to fit anywhere that you would need to.
You sell all of that in your shop?
I do not have a shop, actually. I mostly do aquarium service. So I am able to source things at wholesale, but I don't have a reseller license. So I just get the deals that I'm able to get, and I pass them along to all of my clients.
Is there a small pump that you would recommend that you buy on Amazon? Small pump, bigger pump?
I think the most popular one would probably be the Tetra Whisper. They make a bunch of different sizes of them. You could get the smallest one and it'll be plenty. They're not super noisy, so you could always opt to get a giant one if you think maybe you'll have a manifold that needs to run 20 plant propagations or something at some point. Really, whatever you have space for, I would go as big as you can, because you can choke them down, but you can't expect them to output more than the electricity they draw. Yeah.
So I have a cage, but not an aquarium. It's basically like a greenhouse collecting like algae or. But I'm not allowed to have the aquarium because they don't want to smell in the house. So how do you prevent an aquarium smell?
Do you want to come smell my master bedroom?
No.
It smells like the forest floor. It does not smell like fish or algae or anything like that. If you keep a balanced aquarium, which growing the plants is going to help with, because they're going to suck up the nutrients and compete with the algae too, it should smell not at all. Thanks again, guys. So real quick before I hand it back to Kristen, we meet, the Sacramento Aquarium Society meets monthly the first Saturday of the month in Gold River at Mountain Mike's Pizza. It starts at 3 p.m. and it tends to go until closing around 9-ish. We have an auction every month, so that takes a long time. The talk itself does not go that long. If you're only there to learn, you're probably going to be wrapped up around 5:30-ish. And also, next year in April, remind me dates, 24 through 27? 23 through 26. We of the Sacramento Aquarium Society are going to be hosting the Aquatic Gardeners Association. This is the national group, like you guys are a part of the American Begonia Society. They're going to come to town. We're going to do a convention. It will be at the Wyndham on Date Avenue over at the Madison exit of 80. Would love to see you all there. Thanks again so much.